All right, so if you guys were on Twitter over the last couple of days, then I'm sure that you saw Nicki Minaj getting absolutely blasted from every angle on her takes on the COVID vaccine and some of her anecdotal stories that she decided to share with the world about one of her cousin's friend's testicles and how they have been affected by the COVID vaccine. So let's go ahead and read this actual tweet that sparked this entire thing and then run down the chain of events that subsequently followed, because this shit is honestly goddamn hilarious in my opinion. But in addition to that, it also plays into, obviously COVID misinformation that we have been having to deal with throughout the course of the pandemic. So here from Nicki Minaj, okay, my cousin in Trinidad won't get the vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. His testicles became swollen, and his friend was weeks away from getting married, and now the girl called off the wedding. So just pray on it and make sure that you're comfortable with the decision, not bullied, okay? So basically the overall message of this is like, do your research into the COVID vaccine, make sure that it's right for you, and then make a decision based on that. But obviously as a standalone message, that would have been fine. But the problem is with what came before that, right? Obviously talking about this random, unverified anecdotal story of her cousin's friend in Trinidad who had swollen testicles after he got the vaccine. Now listen, I'm not a scientist. I am not a doctor, but I'm 100% certain that swollen testicles are not a common side effect of the COVID vaccine. And what I am also certain of is that there are certain STDs and STIs that you can get that will affect your testicles in this way and could result in swollen testicles or swollen balls or whatever the fuck you want to say in this given context, okay? So it seems to me, like reading into this, as many other people pointed out in her replies, it seems to me like her cousin's friend in Trinidad maybe had a wedding coming up and either didn't want to tell his potential spouse or fiance that he had an STD, or that he had potentially cheated on his fiance and gotten an STD, and therefore he decided to blame the COVID vaccine for his STD symptoms of having swollen testicles. So it seems like that's actually what went on here, and nonetheless, this ended up with a butterfly effect, a downstream effect of Nicki Minaj, a person who has no less than, let's see, 22.6 million followers on Twitter, tweeting out to her followers and then proceeding to get absolutely dunked on. As you can see here from the ratio on Twitter, almost 91,000 quote tweets to 131,000 likes. Okay, so if you don't know about Twitter, that's an absolute what we call a ratio. She got obliterated and basically got dunked on by the entire internet. And so this ended up becoming basically an entire national conversation surrounding this. It even made it to Tucker Carlson's show, who is basically the most famous right-wing propagandist in the entire country. So here from the Daily Beast, Tucker Carlson urges Nicki Minaj's cousin's friend to call him about swollen testicles. So this literally made it onto one of the most watched cable, or I guess most watched news programs in the entire country. So you see from the Chiron down here below, rapper Nicki Minaj challenges vaccine mandate, as if the tweet that she had just sent out was some like well thought out challenge to the establishment, well thought out challenge to the big pharma industry, right? He portrayed this entire segment, and I unfortunately watched through the entire segment. And I don't recommend that you guys do the same because it was unbearable. But basically throughout the entire segment, he's trying to portray Nicki Minaj's tweet about her cousin's friend's swollen testicles as if that was some like well thought out challenge against the big pharma establishment that's trying to force everybody to get vaccines. So that's how Tucker Carlson, renowned right-wing propagandist on Fox News, decided to portray this. So this made it all the way up to the biggest channels on television. And in addition to that, she also was picking some fight with some establishment figures, which I found to be extremely entertaining. And I'm obviously not going to read this out loud for very obvious reasons, as you can see, but this is what she had to say about Joy Ann Reid, who basically did a segment on MSNBC where she was criticizing Nicki Minaj for the tweet that she sent out. And this is basically what she was pointing out. And this is valid criticism of Joy Reid, right? And I hadn't even been made aware of these tweets beforehand, but she said, will anyone at all, ever fully trust the CDC again? And who on God's earth would trust a vaccine approved by the US FDA? How do you get a vaccine distributed after this broken Trumpist nonsense has infected everything, even if Biden wins? So you can see Joy Reid, right, this MSNBC host who was attacking Nicki Minaj, probably rightfully so. I didn't watch her clip on this, but probably rightfully so in her attacks against Nicki Minaj. But basically, she's pointing out accurately the criticisms or the the hypocrisy that was emblematic within the Democratic establishment. When it was Trump who was in office, they were saying, well, there's no way we could trust the vaccines. And you see it literally here from Joy-Ann Reid saying, how could we ever trust this vaccine? It was produced under the Trump administration. So again, you do see a fair criticism here of the hypocrisy by a lot of these establishment media people who are coming out and actually not following the science and actually basically playing a partisan game where if it's Biden elected, then the vaccine is great and effective, which it is scientifically. But if it's Trump who's in office, then these people will tell you that it's not effective and that it's not working and that there should be some sort of a large degree of doubt cast on these vaccines. In addition to that, she pointed out some of the history surrounding Joy M. Reid. So the Joy Reid controversy from Vox here, from homophobic blog post to hacking claim explained, MSNBC host Joy Reid was accused of writing homophobic blog posts, and Reid at first said that she was hacked and then apologized. So if you weren't aware of this entire saga that unfolded with Joy Reid, I suggest you go and look deeper into it. I'm not going to talk about it as much right now, but basically the outline is exactly what this headline is saying. Joy Reid had old blog posts that were really, really problematic, and when she was called out on it, she basically came forward and said like, oh, I was hacked. Right? Okay, so now as an MSNBC anchor, she's saying, I was hacked. Somebody went back and edited my, 2013 or whatever blog posts that I had that were very homophobic and in many cases otherwise problematic. And she basically blamed somebody for hacking her old blog posts and then later admitted that, yes, indeed, she did say these things. So again, Nicki Minaj just dunking on Joy Reid, deservingly so on this hypocritical take that she had. But nonetheless, the vaccines do work. And even though she is dunking on the hypocrisy of Joy-Ann Reid is right now in currently saying that the vaccines are safe and effective and that we should be pressing or spreading propaganda against the vaccines. But continuing on with this entire saga, so she also dunked on Meghan McCain, which I will never give up the opportunity to praise a dunk on Meghan McCain. And so Meghan McCain came out and said, that's entirely enough internet today. And Nicki Minaj just simply said, eat shit, you. And listen, that's, perfectly fine in my opinion, deservingly so. Meghan McCain deserves to be dunked on at every opportunity possible. So just going to leave it at that. Eat shit, you, directed at Meghan McCain there. So just to finish it off here, this is where the saga is as of this moment that I'm recording this video. Hopefully nothing crazy will happen after this, but here's where we are, okay? The Trinidad and Tobago, okay? If you remember from the original start of this, it was all based on her cousin in Trinidad, who now won't get the vaccine because of his friend in Trinidad's swollen testicles. And now it has reached the point where the Trinidad and Tobago health minister has said in a news conference that they've wasted time actually exploring this. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say.
One of the reasons we could not respond yesterday in real time to Ms. Minaj is that we had to check and make sure that what she was claiming was either true or false. And unfortunately, we wasted so much time yesterday running down this false claim. It is, as far as we know, at this point in time, there has been no such reported either side effect or adverse event. And what was sad about this is that it wasted our time yesterday.
All right, so you basically see there exactly what his take was. They were wasting a bunch of time looking into this report of a guy who apparently had swollen testicles from the COVID vaccine. Much more likely that he actually had swollen testicles from some sort of STD or STI or something like that. Some disease that is not related to COVID and that he maybe just told his wife because he was scared of her leaving him. And so this is a situation that we are at right now globally with COVID, but especially here domestically in the United States. We have a butterfly effect where a swollen man's testicles in Trinidad have a trickle-down effect where basically Nicki Minaj, one of the biggest celebrities in the country, is now spreading vaccine doubt or vaccine hesitancy or even vaccine misinformation. So this is where we're at with COVID. I don't really have much substantial to say or substantive to say about this other than this was a pretty entertaining saga, and I'm glad we ended up coming out on the right side of this and everybody understands that no, the COVID-19 vaccine does not actually cause your balls to become swollen or your testicles to become swollen or anything like that. They are in fact safe and effective, and you should go get the vaccine.